family meet and greet. We're finally making it to Penn Stack.
Like with my video.
And we're eating.
Because I forgot how to eat.
The lighting is horrible.
What up, Facebook?
Boy, bye. I'm about to eat. Change my outfit.
Penn Stack.
Your destination.
About to bowl.
Boy.
12 strikes, you out.
Boy. Change my outfit for bowling out on
Tap
town.
Alright, tap in. Peace.
I'm recording.
You didn't get it? I apologize. Really
I ain't recording too.
Okay.
Boy, you are not recording. You gonna get a drink? What do I want to eat? Oh, grilled chicken sandwich, tacos. What? Then why do you want to go to the Derby? Serena's last match. Did you go there last time?
Y'all come out.
Yeah. It's a and now I got glasses. No, but I wasn't at most. It's be raining, so yeah. It's like
it didn't rain, did it?
I don't know, but usually always rains on Derby or Oaks, one of the two.
Okay.
I have to put my glasses on, y'all. I can't see. Okay. Here's my nachos. I met them before. Y'all, so I'm about to call it a night. We didn't even bowl, and I didn't even get my food, but that's a whole other story. I would just say don't go to Penn Stack, but I met some family, so that was cool. On my mom's dad's side, that's who's all here. I met some family. Tomorrow we're going to an African American tour in Dallas, so I'm really excited for that if you've ever watched my channel. But yeah, I'm about to just chill out because we got to be up at we got to be downstairs at about 8:30 in the morning. So, I got to get dressed, get breakfast and all that stuff. So, I'm about to just go to sleep. Relax, wind down. It's 11 o'clock. Good night. Catch y'all in the morning. Good morning, y'all. This is day 2. I'm about to go get some breakfast, but this is my outfit. White. It's all white, but I'm just wearing this white. Put like a jean jacket over it and some shorts. And I don't have my shoes on yet. It's the same shoes from yesterday. I really want to wear my heels. Hold up. Look the freak. I really want to wear my heels that are pink, but I don't want to do too much walking. So I'll see you when we get to the event. Gotta let my edges down. There's my shades of the day.
By show of hands, how many of you grew up in Texas? One person. Wow. Where'd you grow up, sir? Houston, Texas? In the city, 3rd Ward, 5th Ward, or somewhere else?
Okay.
All over. Okay.
H-Town.
For all of you other people who did not grow up in Texas, did not take 7th grade Texas history, we got to give you a little history to kind of level set everybody before we get to our first stop, which is coming up in a few minutes.
Okay.
So the quickest way for us to do that, how many of you gone to Six Flags? Somewhere. There are about 30 Six Flags parks all over the country. The first one, the original one, was called Six Flags Over Texas. It was located in Arlington and still open. The reason that they call it Six Flags Over Texas is because you can tell the whole history of Texas, at least from a European perspective, using Six Flags. Those Six Flags are the Spaniards. The Spaniards came in the 1500s. Americans in terms of what influences they had. You see those skyscrapers?
Yes.
That's where Dallas was in 1845, 1860. Now it was only 1 square mile. Now the interesting thing about it is all this Valor, the Alamo, and Sam Houston, when all this stuff was happening, there was no Dallas. There was barely a Houston, right? The biggest cities in Texas was San Antonio and Galveston by 4. Dallas was only 1 square mile. It was founded in 1841. The first black people actually came within 9 months, 1842, early 1842. Now, at the end of the Civil War, I know it's hard for you to believe with all these buildings and Walmart and stuff, but this was the heart of the largest black community in Dallas. This was called.
On my right, he is the guardian of the cemetery of this memorial. He keeps it from harm and danger.
To our African ancestors.
Prophetess, I like to call the shaman. This is the person that keeps the story alive. Kind of like my husband and I. We keep Dallas history, this area alive, and we want to share it with the world. So we have the prophetess. The sculptor who designed all these images that you're going to see in the cemetery is called, his name is David Newton. He's a guy from Detroit, Michigan. He actually was a child prodigy.
Oh, they went three.
Like 10, 11-year-olds with me because I want them to know that even at that young age, your destiny is already made. He was a child prodigy. They knew at the age of 10 that this little boy had a gift. And he did. You can look at him. Look at his images. You see, he wanted to study. He has a bachelor degree in fine arts. He has a master. And that didn't stop him. He even went
This is
to
the arch, the middle passage showing symbolism of everybody coming over.
They're not 3D anymore. That's a representation of symbolism. How do you want to interpret these images now that you see? You have they're not 3D, they're not whole people. How do you interpret that? Here you have the violated soul of a woman. She has a hand covering her face, ashamedness. So you can interpret that any way you want. Mr. Newton is good in providing you with the images, but he's giving you a whole lot of symbolism for you to do your own interpretation of what these images mean. So how was this woman violated? How was the race violated? You can take it and use it any way you like. Also on this side, you have the man. Again, this is the struggling soul. How was he struggling? How was the race struggling? As I said before, use your own interpretation of how these images can be taken. Also, ma'am, if you look right up under here, what do you see?
This is the violated woman. Remember, it's freedom. This is in honor of our freedom. Guys, we are refurbishing the bronze plaques to continue preserving their memory. This is our walk to freedom.
I see a man following a woman. This is an image that you normally don't see in the African American community because they try to wipe it out. But Mr. Newton.
Freedom Cemetery, these are passages. This is known as Hollow Land, and this is where slaves were buried when back then blacks were buried at different places. So this right here is the walk to freedom. That's emancipation right here. Two people are buried under there. This is all the land. So if you're ever in Dallas, you can come here to honor your ancestors. Excuse me. And these are the images. This is also a Dallas landmark, Freedom Cemetery.
Jamie's hometown, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Jamie's hometown is a place called Charles, Texas. It's about 20 miles east of here. But this was a collection of the largest concentration of black people. Probably at its height, about 30,000 black people lived in this neighborhood. It was also not just a large congregation of black people, but it was also a center for like arts. So when Jamie was raised by his grandparents, and so his grandparents wanted to basically, cultivate his music.
These apartments cost $2,000. No, sir.
see, 21, 25, that's 21, 27, 21, 25 Park Street. And you can take music lessons from a famous musician here. Her name was Miss Latina Hodge. And so you guys may remember this when Jamie won the Academy Award for his portrayal of Ray Charles. The first thing he did was he gave a shout out to Miss Latina Hodge, who trained him in music, and taught him how to play the piano. Right there, that red building right next to 2127, it was a white frame house. How many Texas people we have? Houston? Only? Just one?
No.
Okay. All work. Okay.
This is the park.
It's African American, but it's the most celebrated holiday of the freedom of African American and the manner in which they were free.
So, the African Americans purchased this park in the 1880s here in Davenport Cemetery. Now, the reason that we like to stop this tour here,
This
the
is
city actually purchased this park
pastor.
for black people in 1913. So black people owned it like 30, 40 years. And then the city, basically white people decided
From the
we'll
other
purchase
part
that park.
that we
And
was
the
at.
reason that they purchased that park was
Back in
they
1930.
decided, you know, we want Dallas to be a first-class city. We need to have first-class freeways. We need to have first-class parks and recreation. But we like to come here because they decided, in their wisdom, and they really were trying to be kind. They said, we're going to give black people 7 parks. Okay? And those 7 parks belong to black people. We'll take care of them. You are now standing right in the middle of Negro Park number 1. Okay?
What did you say?
Negro Park number 1. That was the official name. There was a Negro Park number 2, a Negro Park number 3, 4. Yes. Well, one, we already own the park, but the benefit of the city taking over it was they would maintain it. And they actually put a pool. They did some good things. They enhanced the baseball field. Yeah, very symbolic.
They didn't want us to see, they never envisioned it.
Yeah,
they never envisioned us being with other ethnicities at a park together. So since they did not envision that, they tried to do this thing their little mind to provide, hey, they want a park, we give them a park. We give them 7. As long as we don't fellowship with them.
Well, it was appeasement, and it was also, you know, they're paying the city dollars, so they need to have a city park. But they never, I saw a black lady walking, you see white guys running. I don't know if this gentleman, I don't want to insult him, but he looks like he's of Asian heritage. So they never envisioned that all different kinds of people would ever come to this park. And back in 1915, when they opened it, hey, black parks, they got 6 others.
This park was bought by Griggs, the pastor of New Hope Baptist Church, and that's his monument right there. And so this was purchased in 1913. On to the next one.
School was closed. It was reopened a few years ago. It's no longer called St. Peter's. It's called Notre Dame School. It's a school for developmentally challenged children. But the buildings that you see here to the right, they are all the original buildings of St. Peter's Catholic School. Now, Jordan's son, he actually became the first African-American priest in the state of Texas. Now, he was not allowed to practice the priesthood in Texas. He actually practiced in the Caribbean and South America. This house since continuously. Her family has lived in this house since 1928. Wow. So they have always lived in this house for almost 100 years. Now, the house is older than 100. So, she is the only homeowner that was originally in this neighborhood that we have found when it was all black. So sometimes she's sitting out on the porch in one of those white. This is St. Paul Methodist Church. They actually came to this corner in 1901. When they came to this corner in 1901, the top portion of this building did not exist. The only thing from a structure that was here, you'd see those 2 wrought-iron gates where you kind of go down some stairs. that was where they worshipped every Sunday morning. They did not have the top. Many of you, I'm sure, are church people, and you're familiar with the term the building fund or the building fund collection. Yep, you know. All right. So you know the story. I'm not going to even have to go into it. Some of our audiences we do have to explain, but I think you guys know what a building fund is. Now, they did do it a little bit different here. Most black churches, they take the building fund collection once or twice a month. You give money in addition. The 1960s and 1970s, so we had a personal bias. We kind of thought that, hey, yeah, some stuff happened, but the real important stuff didn't happen till after the civil rights movement in the 1960s and stuff, and all that stuff that happened before, it was okay, but it wasn't that big a deal. But once we did this tour and we put in the work and we did the research, we came to a different conclusion. Actually, we now believe that the greatest decade for African Americans in Dallas was not the 1950s, 60s, 70s, not even the 1990s when we elected our first black mayor. The greatest decade for African Americans was the 1920s. You see the school, the church, and we're going to tell you about some other things, but this building. Let me tell you the story of this building. In the 1920s, this community was...
For people. So people will come from East Texas, they come from Louisiana, they come to Dallas, they're trying to develop themselves, so they come in here for the jobs, they don't have a place to stay, they can rent rooms here, so they will rent rooms on a weekly basis or a daily basis, whatever they needed in order to do that.
Quick. How many rooms was in here initially?
There was probably somewhere between 25 and 30.
Okay.
It wasn't a lot of rooms.
I know, it looked small.
But what they probably did was, they probably put two people in a room together and to put spaces, and then the people that stayed long, you couldn't stay, if you rented a room, you couldn't stay long. You had to establish yourself and get out. But the other thing that this is look at the address over there. It says what?
2700 Florida Street.
2700 Florida Street. That's very important. Because what I found out is this building was actually listed in a 1962 edition
of the Green Book.
Now, if you know anything about the Green Book, you know that this is the book we used when we was in the DCs and the New Yorks and the Philadelphias and the places like that. And we actually had to come home. So the Green Book was used, created by Victor Green. It was created by, look on the text, Dallas. It's created by Victor Green. People don't realize this. The Green Book was created just for the New Yorkers, just for them to come out of Harlem safely. Because they found out that when they went outside of their normal areas, they were not always accepted. So Victor Green came up with this thing, and he took it from
the Green Book
idea from the Jewish people.
Yeah, I heard. That's where it was when you travel. It's so where you can know where to stay at.
Oh, I didn't know that.
After the first year of the Green Book, people said, hey, Mr. Green, you have got to do this for everybody. Now, Victor Green was a U.S. postal worker. So he used his association through the Postal Association to get information from people. So they would start advertising in the Green Book. So
this is the same.
You already know because I'm preaching to the crowd. When I have young people, I tease them. I say, oh yeah, y'all get in the car, y'all stop at the little Lucky's or whatever, the little get your little snacks and stuff.
Yeah, there's just different places.
We had to get our stuff together before we went. And then for the small areas like in East Texas or the rural area like in Arkansas and places like that, they may not have had a hotel, they may not have had a wife. What they did have were houses. And they called them homes. And they could actually stay in those homes when they travel. So look at your area that you're from and see what was actually in the Green Book for your area so that you could travel safely during the time of Jim Crow. It is now a high school for performing arts.
Oh, that's cool.
But it didn't start out that way. It was an African American high school. This is where African Americans who wanted to go beyond 8th grade education could go to school.
So the original Booker T. Washington High School goes all the way back to 1898. They moved to this location. This building was opened in 1921. When the building was originally constructed, it was designed to hold 600 students. Within a year and a half, it had 2,500 students, so it was 4 times capacity. And so what they did to address that oversupply in terms of number of students, they essentially ran this school around the clock. So they would have a group of students that would come at 8 in the morning, 12:30, 1 o'clock, and they would go to school all afternoon. They would leave around 5:30, 6, and then there would be a third group of students that typically worked to help out their parents. They would go to school from like 6 in the evening until about 10, 10:30 at night. And they did this. So it opened in the 1920s. And the way that it worked, you see where that picture of that man is? That was the box office. So that's where you bought your tickets. And when you bought your tickets, you walked in that, you see that series of 4 brown doors? That's where you walked in. And on the other side of those 4 brown doors was the most beautiful foyer with chandeliers and everything like that. And Dallas is very proud of this. Now, if you were African American, it was a little bit different. You bought your ticket at the box office, but you walk down the street. You see where that open door is with the barbed wire on top?
What?
That's an alleyway.
Oh my
So
God.
for African Americans, that's how you entered the Majestic Theater. You didn't walk through the front door and go to the main
They wouldn't
seating.
have got my money.
Yeah, somebody said
wouldn't have
wouldn't have had my money, probably mine either.
Yeah.
But that's the way that it was, and it was that way until the mid-1960s.
Oh.
Actually, it was a lady, we are not going to have time to talk about it much today, but her name is Juanita Craft, and she is one of the most famous civil rights advocates in Dallas. She actually led protests to integrate this theater as well as the state fairgrounds that we're going to end this tour on.
Oh, kitchen cocktails.
Down traveling. The first one of those just celebrated, I think, their 5th or 6th year anniversary. It happened, I think, in 2016. 5 policemen were actually gunned down. The gunman was black. It actually happened in the streets that we are now approaching. On the left-hand side of the street, you will see a building where these 2 people are. That is the El Centro College building. That is where a decision was made to send in a bomb-enabled robot into this building. That decision was made by a black police chief. And they sent the bomb-enabled robot in this building right to your left, and they blew up the killer. That is the only time a bomb-enabled robot has ever been used in the United States of America. One of those 5 policemen were actually shot across this street where you see that green parking sign. And he was shot in a building and killed right there. Now, when you go through this light, Randy's going to pull over if traffic will allow him. Now, the significance of the spot that he's going to pull over, there's going to be a log cabin. That log cabin is the representation of the home of the founder of Dallas. It was a man, his name was John Neely Bryant. And he had a very, very, very specific job and very, very important job in the history of Dallas. We mentioned before that Dallas did not exist in 1836 when the Battle of the Alamo was fought. So when the Texans actually defeated the Mexican army, they lived in constant fear because Mexico never recognized Texas as an independent nation. And so what happened is the settlers, oh, this guy's going the wrong way.
Oh my goodness. Oh. Yeah. Okay.
I've never seen that before. A guy going the wrong way on a one-way street.
Ooh, oh my God.
Okay. So anyway, John Neely Bryant, he had a very important job in the history of Dallas. The settlers were afraid because they lived in constant fear that the Mexican army would come back and retake Texas. And so they thought and they strategized, how are we going to prevent this? So they decided the only way that they would... So they decided that the only way that they could prevent Mexico from coming back was, hey, we've got to entice people from other states, mainly other southern states like Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and so forth. We've got to entice them to move from where they are to come in the United States. We have over 4 million black people that live in Texas alone. But it all started as a result of being like John Neely Bryant. And the thing to know is that he was in Dallas, but there were other John Neely Bryants in places like Houston, Beaumont, Nacogdoches. So all over Texas you have people that are making money, enticing other people to move here and relocate with their slaves. And that is why cotton production in Texas actually began to exceed the production of cotton in Mississippi, Georgia, and states like that. Right? So, continuing on, those of you, actually, for you guys, let me kind of set this up. To the right-hand side of the street, there's a building. That is the famous school book depository. Lee Harvey Oswald on November 22nd, 1963 fired a fatal shot. And there are going to be two X's in the street. Randy, if you could move over to the left-hand lane when we go through that last light up there. There's going to be two X's in the street. The first X is going to mark the exact spot that John Kennedy was in his motorcade on November 22nd, 1963, when Lee Harvey Oswald fired that fatal shot from the 6th floor of this last building on the right-hand side. The second X in the street is going to mark where John Conley was. All those people in front of us on the right-hand side of the bus and the people on the left-hand side of the bus, this is the most visited site in Dallas. This is the Dealey Plaza, where those men are standing with the cameras and stuff by this white structure. That's the grassy knoll. This is the first X. This is exactly where John F. Kennedy was when he was shot. The next X up here is where John Conley was when he was shot. So all of these people that you see around here, this is the Kennedy assassination site that you probably heard about. If you want to come and visit and you have time and maybe where it identifies it, it's called Martyrs Park. And that is a park where in 1860, you remember we talked about that 1 square mile? The entire city of Dallas burned to the ground. It was all wooden buildings. This was 1860, 1 year before the Civil War. People were upset. So 52 white men formed a vigilante committee, and they wreaked havoc on the city of Dallas. At the end of that 2-week period, they had rounded up 3 black men, and they accused them of starting that fire. Those 3 black men were hanged in that park. That's why it's called Martyrs Park. Now, the tragic thing about it is those 3 black men had nothing to do with the fire that burned down the city. But another interesting thing about the hanging, every man, woman, and child, black, white, whatever you were required to come to this park and witness this public hanging. So it was not only a hanging, but it was also an act of great intimidation. And she killed him in his apartment. That police officer was named Amber Geiger. She is now in prison for the murder of that young man.
Period.
That all occurred in a place called the Southside Flats. And if you look to the left, this is the apartment complex, the Southside Flats, where that occurred. She actually got off about a block down the street. You'll see another large building. That is the Dallas Police Headquarters. So she actually got off from work. She drove right through. That's the entrance where that van is. And she went into the parking lot of her apartment complex and walked into the wrong apartment, she says, and she shot and killed Botham John. Now, what you may not be familiar with is that this street has been renamed. It used to be Lamar Boulevard. It has been renamed Botham John in honor of that young man.
Yes.
And this is this is the actual police headquarters for the Dallas Police Department. So you can see how close it. Actually, I don't even know why she would drive her car to work. Yeah, she could walk. But she actually drove her car from her job after a double shift. She drove 1 block to her apartment and walked in. Yeah. But this entire street was renamed about a year and a half ago in honor of that young man.
Botham John, that's great. Ooh, Turkey Lake Paradise, not Turkey Lake Hut.
I haven't been there.
Not Turkey Lake Hut. You don't see no line.
So now, as my husband said, we're transitioning to another part of our tour. And I just want to lay out the tour for you. We're going to go through this light. And where we have been, guys, is the State Thomas area was a place that African American community, they built their community there because that's where they buried the dead in Dallas. Remember, he probably told you guys. That's where they buried the dead. So nobody really wanted to live where they buried the dead. So guess what they did? African Americans could settle there. That was a place where they could buy land. Why? It's in an undesirable location of the city. Now, where we're getting ready to go now is different. The history is going to be different. And the history is different because this is where the first time in Dallas that black people began encroaching on the white community. We was in State Thomas at the Emancipation. Dallas have about 10 Freeman communities. And those communities are always in areas that are undesirable. So we didn't have to put people out. So, yeah, you go live over there. But now where we're going now, we're going into South Dallas. And if you're from Dallas, well, even if you listen to the news and you guys are visiting, anything south of 30 is going to be South Dallas. But that's not how we Dallasite think about it. We know what South Dallas did. We've been to go to South Dallas.
Gentleman, Nathan Bedford Forrest. Anybody know who he is? Does anyone know who that name is? Yeah, so Nathan Bedford Forrest, if you're not familiar with it, he was the gentleman who founded the Ku Klux Klan. And so this street was named in his honor, and it was later renamed Martin Luther King Boulevard when the black people actually displaced the white people that lived in this neighborhood.
Now you see it.
They did. Okay, yeah.
So, and this transition happened very fast. It happened starting in the late 40s. By the late 1950s, this area had gone from exclusively from white to all black. So to the right is the Forest Avenue Theater or the Central Forest Club. Those of you who may be familiar with Erykah Badu, so Tina Turner and Ike Turner, this is the last place that they actually performed together. So Tina, that song, What Love Got to Do With It, it ended right in this entertainment venture.
It ended.
Okay. Alright. So it all ended for Ike and Tina right here at the Forest Theater. This is the last place they performed together. She actually went to the Dallas Police Department, and her and Ike, to my knowledge, never ever performed again or had any future relationships. African Americans. Too often when we tell our stories, sad and depressing, but a lot of things were accomplished. And the reason that we add this part of the tour to your experience is that we want you to kind of go on the journey with black people. It was Jewish, and Jewish people lived here in the 1920s and 1930s. And actually, Randy, if you can stop, if nobody's behind you. Okay, so you see that freeway to the left, and all those cars going back and forth. So when that freeway wasn't there, this was a large Jewish synagogue called Temple Emmanuel. Now, Temple Emmanuel is still one of the largest Jewish communities, but synagogues, but is no longer located here. So when that freeway came, they moved the synagogue, and the Jewish people moved out. Homes are very, very beautiful. They're still fairly well kept. The integration of the community has made it a little bit more diverse, but it is still majority the home for like middle-class black people. As a matter of fact, my wife and I went to high school together, and our principal actually lived on this street. So this was the area where black people lived when they thought they had made it. Now, in many cases, the African American women that took care of the housekeeping and the chauffeurs, the African American men that were chauffeurs, many times they lived all week away from their families, and so they lived in the back. And the reason that they have to live in the back, in many cases, the African American women that took care of the housekeeping and the chauffeurs, the African American men that were chauffeurs, many times they lived all whole week away from their families, and so they live in the back. And the reason that they have to live in the back, commemorated by a photo of Malcolm and Martin at the respective corners. You also, the crosswalk, we're going to make a left-hand turn here. The crosswalks are signified with the Black Lives Matter crosswalks and a sign. All right.
Oh, Black Lives Matter. Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, so this is, and we're on Martin Luther King again. Once again, we just passed the intersection of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. And also to the right is the Dallas Martin Luther King Center. That is a statue of Martin Luther King in front of the building.
Period.
And the reason, we're not going to stop. We're going to keep going.
We are now heading to the African American Museum to go see the what exhibit? I forgot. Catch when I get in there.
Strong endurance and tenacity to make sure the truth. That was not what's read. What was read was Journal Order number 3. If you guys have any military affiliation, you know that when you have a commander, he can have orders. He can do orders to get his tasks done. So June Granger came up with 4 tasks. But his major task he came here for was Journal Order number 3. And this is what he read on Ashton Villa. This was what was taken to the plantations. These are what the soldiers, actually the Union soldiers that came with him, took it to the county courthouse staff. They went to every county that these ones here. He said it used to hang from here. But some of the mature people, like myself, we would become upstairs. I'm sorry? This is the Macmillan Sanitarium. It is the old comet cleaners that's right there on Hall Street, right there. They're in the State Thomas area. So remember, we don't call it Uptown, we call it State Thomas, in the State Thomas area. And this is the cleaner, this is Mr. Macmillan, this is it's above ground, but you have to remember, they started burying people in the 1850s. So a lot of people that they buried did not have a lot of financial resources. And another thing you see at this grave site is a lot of shells. And you can see it in the
We're at the cake bar. It's the only black-owned business over here. So I'm gonna get some cake. Ooh, hold on, how 5-inch cake? Oh my god. Ooh, the price is a little high. The New York style pizza, Holy Crust. We're eating lunch here at Holy Crust. And I got a red velvet cake. Oh, I love red velvet. Good morning, y'all. It is Sunday. This is my outfit of the day. I'm changing my shoes, but I'm wearing flip-flops to breakfast. Sorry for the dirty. Last night we played games. I was the host of Family Feud, and my cousin did like an ancestry thing, so I didn't really record because there was a lot going on and I was tired. It was a long way, but hopefully you enjoyed some of the views. Today we're about to head to church, and I think I'm going to go to a day party, so just, stay with the vibes, and I'll catch y'all soon. I just won. Woo, I won first place with my cousin on this one and that one. Woo. Is the air hot to you? No, girl, I got to know my soccer. Okay, y'all, we made it back from the arcade. It was really fun. We was playing air hockey, played a little basketball. I won. I lost, but it was so good. I'm whispering because it's like 12 o'clock at night, but I'll catch y'all in the morning for my last day in Dallas. I can't vlog all the time because I don't want to be on my vlog and stuff like that, but it was pin stack. We went back there. My cousins had some money on their cards, and I kind of got a history school lesson, everything. It was just a lot going on, so yeah. So yeah, this is my airport outfit, but I'm about to go hang out with my cousin. Don't know if I'm going to vlog too well, but hopefully you enjoyed this. I didn't do a lot of vlogging because I was with my family, but it was really fun. It was a great time to connect. New people, let me know if y'all go to family reunions. We're going to do like another one. I think in 2 years for like the bigger family, but we might meet up with our other family like next year or something like that. I got some cousins, so you know, I'm trying to meet up with them and see them sometime soon. So make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. See you in the next vlog.